Titan Security Solutions was one of the fastest growing private security firms in Arizona. Founded in 2018 by Brennan Mitchell, a former Phoenix police SWAT officer, the company had exploded in just 5 years. They provided executive protection, event security, and high-risk transport services to corporations, celebrities, and high-net-worth individuals across the Southwest. By 2023, they employed over 200 operatives and generated $12 million in annual revenue. Brendan was 32 years old, fit, confident, the kind of guy who wore fitted suits, drove a BMW M5, and had his office decorated with framed articles about his company's success. He'd been profiled in Phoenix Business Journal, featured on local news segments. He was proud of what he'd built, and he had every right to be. On a Tuesday morning in September, Brendan was reviewing applications for a new position. They needed someone to manage their training facility. Not running drills, they had ex-military guys for that, but someone to oversee schedules, maintain equipment, handle administrative tasks, basic operational management. The pay was $45,000 a year. Not great, but not terrible for Phoenix. Most of the applications were what he expected, young guys in their 20s and 30s. A few with military backgrounds, a couple with law enforcement experience, standard stuff. Then he saw one that made him pause. Name, Colonel Thomas Brennan. Age, 73. Previous employment, United States Army, 1968 to 2008. Position applied for, Training Facility Manager. Brendan blinked. 73 years old, applying for an entry-level operations job. He almost deleted it, but something made him curious. He clicked through to the resume. The work history section was sparse. Just one line. U.S. Army, 1968 to 2008. Various assignments. Honorable discharge. That was it. No details, no specifics. 40 years of military service reduced to one sentence. Brendan shook his head. Probably some desk jockey, some admin guy who pushed papers and now needed a little income to supplement his pension. He almost moved on, but then he thought, why not? It might be entertaining. He had 15 minutes before his next meeting. He buzzed his assistant. Sarah, is there a Thomas Brennan in the waiting area? Yes, sir. He's scheduled for 10:30. Send him in now. A minute later, the door opened, and an old man walked in. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, but age had bent him slightly. White hair, thinning on top, deeply lined face. He wore khaki pants that looked 20 years old, a plain white button-down shirt, and brown leather shoes that had been polished but were clearly worn. He walked with a slight limp. His left leg dragged just a bit with each step. Brendan stood, extended his hand. Mr. Brennan, Brendan Mitchell, have a seat. Thomas shook his hand, firm grip, calloused hands. He sat down slowly, like his joints hurt. Brendan settled into his chair, looked at the resume on his screen. So, Thomas? May I call you Thomas? Tom is fine. All right, Tom. I've got your resume here. Says you were in the Army for 40 years. That's impressive. What did you do? Tom's expression didn't change. Various assignments. Infantry, special operations, training, administration toward the end. Brendan nodded. And now you're applying for a training facility manager position. Why? I'm retired. My wife passed 2 years ago. I spend most of my time at home. Thought it'd be good to stay busy. Do something productive. Brendan leaned back, tried to be diplomatic. Tom, I appreciate you coming in, but I've got to be honest. This job requires someone who can be on their feet for 8 to 10 hours a day, who can move quickly if there's an emergency, who can physically manage equipment and facilities. No offense, but you're 73, and you're walking with a limp. I'm not sure you're physically capable of handling this. Tom nodded slowly. I understand your concern. I mean, have you considered other options? Walmart greeter? Library volunteer? Something less physically demanding? Tom's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice stayed calm. I appreciate your time, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for seeing me. He stood slowly, picked up a small folder he'd brought with him, extended his hand again. Brendan shook it. Good luck, Tom. Tom nodded, turned, and walked toward the door. That same slow, limping gait. As he reached for the doorknob, Brennan called out, "Tom, just out of curiosity, what rank were you when you retired?" Tom paused. Looked back. Colonel. Okay. What branch specifically? You said Special Operations? Delta Force. And then he opened the door and left. Brendan sat there, staring at the closed door. Delta Force. The guy said it like it was nothing. Like he was mentioning he worked at a hardware store. Delta Force was the most elite special operations unit in the US. Military. Tier 1. The guys who did things the public never heard about. Hostage rescues, counter-terrorism, classified missions in countries the US wasn't officially operating in. Brandon's curiosity was piqued. He opened Google, typed in Colonel Thomas Brennan, Delta Force. The first result was a Wikipedia page. Brandon clicked it, and his stomach dropped. Colonel Thomas James Brennan, and born the 14th of March, 1954. Service, United States Army, 1968 to 2008. Unit, 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta Force. Rank, Colonel. Awards, Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross. 2, Silver Star. 4, Bronze Star with Valor. 6, Purple Heart. 3. Brendan's hand started shaking. Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration, given for acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. There were fewer than 70 living recipients. He scrolled down, clicked on the Medal of Honor citation. Colonel Thomas J. Brennan distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty on the 3rd of October 1993 in Mogadishu, Somalia. As a commanding officer of a Delta Force rescue team, Colonel Brennan led a mission to extract a downed helicopter crew under heavy enemy fire. Despite being wounded twice, he personally carried 4 wounded soldiers to safety, returned to the crash site 3 times under sustained automatic weapons fire, and coordinated the defense of the position until reinforcements arrived. His actions directly saved the lives of 19 American servicemen. Colonel Brennan's extraordinary heroism and selfless devotion to duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army, and the Department of Defense. Brendan's coffee mug slipped from his hand. It hit the desk. Coffee spilled across his keyboard. "Oh my God," he whispered. He kept reading. Thomas Brennan has served in Vietnam as an 18-year-old infantryman, volunteered for Special Forces, joined Delta Force in 1982, participated in Operation Urgent Fury, Grenada, Operation Just Cause, Panama, Desert Storm, Somalia, Bosnia, and multiple classified operations in the Middle East and Africa. He'd been wounded in action 7 times. He trained over 1,000 special operations soldiers. He personally led 156 classified missions, and Brendan had just told him to try being a Walmart greeter. "Sarah!" Brendan shouted into the intercom. "Is Mr. Brennan still in the building?" "I think he just left, sir." Brendan bolted from his chair, ran out of his office, down the hallway, through the lobby, out the front door. The parking lot was mostly empty. He saw an old man walking slowly toward a faded blue pickup truck, 1992nd model, dented, rust spots. "Colonel Brennan, sir, wait." Tom stopped, turned around slowly, watched Brendan sprint across the parking lot. Brendan reached him, breathing hard. "Sir, I just Googled you. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I had no idea." Tom's expression didn't change. "You didn't ask. Sir, I was completely out of line. I made assumptions. I was disrespectful. I am deeply, deeply sorry." Tom nodded. "Apology accepted. Have a good day, Mr. Mitchell." He started to turn back to his truck. "Wait, sir, please. Just give me 5 minutes. Please." Tom hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. They walked back inside. Brendan led him to a conference room, closed the door. They sat across from each other. Brendan took a breath. "Colonel, I read your citation. Mogadishu, 1993. You saved 19 men. I did my job. Sir, you were shot twice and went back into a firefight 3 times. That's not just doing your job. That's heroism. Tom's voice was quiet. 19 men went home to their families because of what my team did that day. That's what mattered. Brendan shook his head. And I told you to try Walmart. I'm an idiot. You didn't know. Most people don't, and that's fine. I don't advertise it. Why are you applying for a $45,000 operations job? Sir, you could be consulting for defense contractors, training SWAT teams, making 6 figures. Tom looked down at his hands. I don't need money. My pension is fine, but I need a purpose. Since my wife died, I wake up with nothing to do. I sit in an empty house, and I remember things I'd rather forget. I thought maybe if I had somewhere to go every day, something to contribute to, it might help. Brendan felt something twist in his chest. This man, this genuine American hero, just wanted to feel useful, and Brendan had dismissed him like he was nothing. Colonel, that training facility manager position, it's yours if you want it, but honestly, that's insulting. What I really need is someone to overhaul our entire training program. We've got good operators, but their training is inconsistent. We need structure, discipline, real-world tactical expertise. I need a vice president of training and operations, someone who can build a program from the ground up, someone who's actually done this at the highest level. Tom looked up. Mr. Mitchell, Brendan, please. Brendan, I appreciate the offer, but I'm 73. I can't run obstacle courses. I can't demonstrate hand-to-hand combat techniques. I don't need you to. I need you to design the programs, oversee the curriculum, evaluate our people, use your knowledge, your experience. I've got young operators who can do the physical demonstrations, but none of them have led a team into a hostile city to rescue hostages. None of them have commanded special operations forces. You have. That's what I need. Tom was quiet for a long moment. What's the salary? $120,000, plus full benefits, plus whatever schedule you want. 4 days a week, 3 days, whatever works for you. That's too much. Sir, with all respect, you're a Medal of Honor recipient with 40 years of Tier 1 experience. If anything, it's too little. Tom studied Brendan's face, looking for sincerity, looking for some angle, but all he saw was genuine respect and genuine need. I don't need special treatment. I don't need my name on anything. I just want to do good work. Brendan extended his hand. Deal. Tom shook it. When do I start? How about Monday? Tom stood. This time, he was smiling. I'll be here. Over the next 3 months, Tom transformed Titan Security Solutions. He redesigned their training program from scratch, created a 12-week certification course for new operators that covered tactical movement, threat assessment, de-escalation techniques, emergency medicine, and legal protocols. He brought in guest instructors, former FBI, Secret Service, and military special operations personnel. He implemented quarterly evaluations. He instituted a physical fitness standard. And he did it all quietly, no fanfare, no press releases, just steady, methodical work. But word got out. One of Titan's clients, a tech CEO, asked Brendan who'd redesigned their training program. Brendan mentioned Colonel Brennan. The CEO Googled him, and suddenly everyone wanted to meet him. Local news reached out. Can we interview Colonel Brennan? Brendan asked Tom. Tom said no, he didn't want attention. But 6 months after Tom started, something happened that changed everything. Titan was hired to provide security for a corporate event in downtown Phoenix, a pharmaceutical conference with 3,000 attendees, 20 Titan operatives on site. Tom was there to observe, to evaluate his people in a real-world scenario. At 2:47 p.m., a man in the crowd started screaming, "I've got a bomb! Everyone down!" Panic. 3,000 people trying to run, pushing, trampling, chaos. Tom's operatives froze. They trained for this, but training and reality are different. Tom didn't freeze. His 73-year-old body moved on, instinct honed over 40 years. He pushed through the crowd, reached the man. The guy was wearing a bulky jacket, wires visible at the collar. Tom's voice was calm, steady. "Son, what's your name?" "Get back, I'll blow us all up." What's your name? The man hesitated. Jacob. Jacob, I'm Tom. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whatever you're going through, whatever made you do this, there's a way out that doesn't end with people dying, including you. You don't understand. They fired me. They ruined my life. I know it feels that way, but think about the people here. They didn't fire you. They're just trying to do their jobs, just like you were. They don't deserve this. Jacob's hand was shaking. On the trigger device, Tom took a step closer. Jacob, I've been where you are. Not exactly, but close. I felt like everything was falling apart, like there was no way forward. But there was. And there's for you too. But first, you need to put that trigger down. I can't. You can, because you're not a killer. If you were, you would have already done it. You're a good person who's hurting. So let's fix the hurt together. Tom extended his hand. Jacob looked at it, at Tom's weathered, scarred hand, at his calm, steady eyes. And slowly, Jacob lowered the trigger, set it on the ground. Tom stepped forward, put his arm around Jacob's shoulders, led him away from the device. Seconds later, Phoenix PD's bomb squad arrived, cleared the area, examined the device. It was fake. No explosives, just wires and a battery pack. Jacob had been planning a hoax to get attention, to punish his former employer. But the crowd hadn't known that. Neither had Tom. The video of Tom talking Jacob down went viral. Someone had filmed it on their phone. Within 4 hours, it had 10 million views. And suddenly, everyone knew who Colonel Thomas Brennan was. News outlets requested interviews. This time, Brennan didn't ask. He told Tom, "Sir, you have a story the world needs to hear." Tom agreed to one interview, 60 minutes. The segment aired 3 weeks later. They covered his military service, Mogadishu, the Medal of Honor, his retirement, his wife's death, his struggle to find purpose, and his work at Titan Security Solutions. The response was overwhelming. Titan received over 500 inquiries about their training program. Defense contractors reached out asking Tom to consult. Police departments wanted him to design tactical programs, but the best response came from a different source. A letter, handwritten, from a 24-year-old Army veteran named Marcus, who'd served in Afghanistan. He'd been struggling with PTSD, unemployed, depressed. He'd watched Tom's interview, and it had given him hope. "You showed me that purpose doesn't end when you take off the uniform, that there's still a mission, still a way to serve. Thank you." Tom framed that letter, put it on his desk, and every morning when he came to work, he looked at it, because it reminded him why he was there. Not for the salary, not for the title, but because someone out there needed to know that the fight doesn't end, the mission continues. And no matter how old you are, no matter how many scars you carry, you still have something to give. Brennan's company grew. Within 2 years, Titan Security Solutions was operating in 12 states, employing over 800 people, generating $40 million in revenue. And at the center of it all was a 73-year-old man with a limp who just wanted to stay busy. Because sometimes the people who look the most ordinary are the most extraordinary. You just have to be smart enough to see it and humble enough to admit when you almost missed it.